we're all feeling pretty good. Casey's feeling really fancy in his white button up. So we're excited to get into it. We actually have a really great article that we have resurfaced that we want to talk about today. So I'm just going to pass it straight over to the guys and let them go at it.
Yeah, sure. So I'll jump in. This article in Internet Time, you could probably consider it to be a bit of a relic. It's 14 years old, but when it popped back up on our radar, it was shocking how relevant it is again today. Like it hasn't changed in 14 years. So the article is from Harvard Business Review. It's Stop Trying to Delight Your Customers. And primarily it's about service. It's about support, but they go into self-service like quite a lot in this article. And it's so full of different cases. It's like really, really dense. So we started passing it around and looking at it against like the more contemporary comps, and so little has changed. It's wild.
It's true.
What were you doing in 2010?
Well, actually, I was doing an earlier version of this. So was Casey.
Yeah.
So the things that I really liked pulling out of this article, the first one was that 57% of inbound calls came from customers who had already gone to the self-service website. They already tried to solve their own problem. And you go and you compare that to the survey that Zendesk did last year, so 13 years later, and the number they got was 40%. So maybe there's been a little bit of an improvement in there, maybe, or maybe they just got slightly different data sets, but it's still like if not a majority, it's pretty close to half. People fail at self-service and then call the support line, which is wow, nothing's changed in 15 years almost.
I know like a lot of people that I have talked to, they like the consensus sometimes is that people just prefer to speak on the phone or they can't find what they need. And so they abandon it. Like once you try to self-serve and you can't, then you probably won't again. And so like, how would you recommend companies tackle that in terms of like building up their trust with self-service again?
Well, so I actually want to toss this over to Jared in a second because like he talks to people trying to solve this problem all the time. But the reason I like starting with this number, this 57%, is because these are the people who aren't disenfranchised. Like there's a whole nother set of people who won't even go to your help site because they had a bad experience previously and they're just picking up the phone. And that's that set of people. So this isn't even the totality of the opportunity. But I mean, like, Jared, you talk to people all the time who are trying to solve this problem. Like, how do you think about this?
So I just picked up the phone today to call somebody and I was like, I'm not even gonna try to deal with this online. This is going to be a mess. I'm just going to call right now. And as soon as I went to this automated, system and I was just like, representative. Like that was the first thing I did because the company that I was needing to deal with is a huge company with multiple sites. And so it was not going to be easy to do this. And so I was just like, I'm just going to call and I'm going to say representative until I get through and I'm going to let them transfer me. It's unfortunate really, because like I was typically in our household, I'm the one that does not want to do that. Like I don't want to get on the phone. I'd rather look it up. I'd rather find the answer myself, fix the problem and move on. And my spouse is the other way. She'll pick up the phone every time. Now, customers, people that I talk to when I have dealing with potential customers, one of the things they're trying to do is to unify that experience, to unify their online presence so that people can self-serve. Because of the exact reason that I ran into today, I knew with the size of the company that I was going to be dealing with that it was going to take me forever to try to locate the information. Googling did not help. I spent maybe 30 seconds Googling just because I was like, just give me the number. Just give me the phone number. And I was like, it's going to be faster. It will be faster for me to call and wait on the phone than to try to sift through the disparate pieces of information online. And the customers that we talk to, are dealing with something like that. They've recognized that the disparate content sets they have and all of the different channels that they're trying to deliver content into can create that experience. And so most of them are trying to, if not unify, they're at least trying to simplify how they deliver the content that people need.
Yeah, so I think we've all had that experience where like we've had a brand impression or we've had like an impression of the complexity of something, and we've just decided that before we even go and Google it that we're not going to be able to solve it. So like just call somebody, and that probably isn't where the gains can be made. It's probably in the people who Google it first. Like you probably get 2 to 3 Googles, and if you don't get somebody kind of like on the right path, then you're probably not getting where you want to go. Casey, what was that thing that what was his name? I'm blanking on his name. Every page is page one. There was a term he had for
Mark Baker, right?
Mark Baker. I haven't talked to Mark in a long time, but he had this thing how he described navigating information. Do you remember what that was?
I don't remember exactly now.
Something about like sense or something like that.
I remember this. Yeah, just vaguely, like information sense.
Yeah, there was something about like it was like I remember thinking it was like sniffing your way along a path, and I always had the image of Hansel and Gretel in my mind, which doesn't actually connect, but they dropped things and was food and it smells good, I guess. But I think the way that I remember him describing it was you had to get somebody close enough. Every page is page one, and then like gave them the ability to follow. That's what it was. Follow an information sent to where they were going. So it had to like feel right and then continue along. But like if you land somebody someplace that makes no sense to them, right off the first or second Google, I just don't think they're getting anywhere with it, and they're going to pick the phone up and call. And then they're probably going to call the next time they deal with you.
So you're suggesting that our content has to be good enough that we turn people into information hound dogs, so they can follow.
I think our content structure has to be good enough in that case.
Okay.
Content and content structure. Like I don't think it's one or the other, because like that speaks as much to the actual content and then to the connectivity.
There's a level of satisfaction of doing that yourself as well, and I'm not sure if that's shared by everyone. But like if I call a company, even if I'm in the situation that you're talking about, Jared, where I'm just like, I'm not going to find this online. I call them, to the basis of this article, I'm almost never satisfied or feel excited about the result of that call. Even if they were like, everything went perfectly, like I got with an agent right away, they solved my problem right away. But if I can go and I can go to their help site or some type of self-service site, and I can find that information in a couple of clicks, and then I can do it myself, I feel like I've accomplished something. And like that's the other side of this coin, is like if you can get someone close and they can do it, then there's a sense of accomplishment for them that's associated with the brand that they don't get at all if they call someone.
And very strictly speaking, you have accomplished something.
True.
So there that's where that comes from.
I think the interesting thing about this article, the fact that we are still talking about like delighting customers. I mean, delight is such in my opinion, it's kind of a crazy target. Like, what does it even mean to delight a customer? I'll tell you, if I have a problem, the way to delight me is get out of the way. Like, get me what I need to fix the issue and get out of the way. I mean, I've mentioned this before, and when I talk to prospects, we kind of joke about this, but like, if your content's really good, you're not going to hear from your customers that much, like, because you're solving problems for them and they don't reach out to you. They're not getting in touch with you. They're not taking up your time to troubleshoot. They're not reaching out to support. So like doing our jobs well means that we're getting out of the way. We're removing hurdles from people. Delight is such a weird thing. Like it's incredibly subjective.
I think in a lot of this context, delight is like a secondary feeling, it's more about like, because they weren't frustrated, they were therefore delighted, and I think that is more the goal for most companies, or it should be more of the goal, is to, like you said, Jared, get out of the way. I mean, there's a reason why clicks to resolution is a metric that people have for self-service. Like, how many clicks does it take to get the answer? And if it's a lot, you get frustrated. It's like every click is an extra piece of frustration.
Yeah, and
Yeah, but
that
that's
speaks to
sorry.
the top of the article too.
I was gonna say,
Sorry.
like, that's a different definition of delight, though. Like, this article is like, delight means you've gone above and beyond with customer service, and we've just
Right.
changed delight to mean like you got what you needed, which is great. That's fine, but there are customers or there are companies that are still trying to like do this above and beyond thing, and this article is saying like you're gonna waste your money if your goal is to go above and beyond in an effort to maintain customer stickiness. Like, what you need to do is what you said, Ren, like solve the problem, get out of the way, and that's going to lead to greater customer satisfaction and stickiness.
Yeah, and that's the thing that the article comes in with, like right at the top is it says delight is a bar that is a waste of money. Like
Yep.
it doesn't actually cause customers to come back more. It doesn't cause customers to have a better image of your brand. Like they just don't care that much about being delighted. They just care a lot about not being frustrated. Now, as we were saying before we got on here, like maybe we question that. Maybe 2010 was a different time. But I do think that like there's still, no matter what, that's either still true or there's still a nugget of truth in there where like the bar for self-service needs to be like just low friction problem to solution as quickly as possible.
The whole concept of going above and beyond too, I actually think could be not just a waste of money, but damaging, because one of the things they mentioned in the article is like going above and beyond means like trying to solve the person's next problem, like the next problem that they have. And while that seems like a great idea, if I'm trying to solve a problem and I've got it solved, I want to go back to whatever I was doing. I don't want them to ask me questions about or lead me down another path. It's just a waste of time. So that extra effort is a waste of money. And in a lot of circumstances, it could have the opposite outcome of what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think the concept of delighting, it's you don't know how you're going to have to go about like delighting your customer, and I think they actually make a key distinction there in the article about when it's good to go above and beyond and when it isn't. So there's an aspect of like forward resolution, which I think that they mentioned is really, really powerful. So you think about, you buy something and they have a set of common problems that come with that. Like, here's the numbers you need to log in, or here's the procedure for connecting your new, clicky remote to your garage door, something like that. They're the types of things that people very often run into. Who was it in here? They had, sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. It was Fidelity is the example. The example they used. And they found that they dropped calls by 5% by allowing customers to have some documentation, with their purchase, with their upgrade, with their new product. So I think that idea of like working the help and self-service like into the actual like buying journey, as opposed to it kind of being the ambulance at the bottom of the hill, and trying to cut those things off makes a lot of sense. But if you're like unnaturally trying to jam it into another process, that's when it becomes really negative. So I think that distinction is really important.
Yeah, one of the examples that they gave for forward resolution, which really connected it for me, was people who log on to their bank website and they change their address. And rather than just leave it there, they prompt them and say, "Hey, do you want to also order checks?" Which is funny now. It's like, oh, that's the 10 years ago. But it was like, oh yeah, because they would probably need to do that, and rather than have to log back in, they're prompted to, and that makes the whole process a lot easier. They update their address and they're able to move on.
Yeah, there's a ton, and as soon as I was reading that, I was thinking about examples with our company. Like, there's a ton of places where somebody is embarking on a new part of their their content management, publishing, deployment journey, where you could very easily be like, oh, well, you're very likely going to have to go connect this, or set this up, or learn this new thing, or send your authors over here to have this training experience. Because there's a number of ways that like we could do that better even. So it got me thinking, and like I'm pretty excited about looking at how we might be able to pull some of those things in.
All right, I have something. It's connected to this. I think I sent each of you a note about this week, because this was delightful. But it's an example of Slack removing a hurdle for me. So I want to have my hands on the keyboard as much as possible. And I didn't know that there was a Slack command to be able to change which section of Slack I'm in, so that I don't have to like use the mouse and go click on something. And so, if you're going to change your context in a browser, you hit tab, or you tab to go from field to field. And so I was in Slack and I was just hitting tab over and over, seeing if I could navigate just by using tab. And after, I don't know how many it was, like 8 or 10 times hitting tab, Slack like pops up a UI, and it's like, are you trying to move sections in Slack? If so, try this keyboard shortcut instead. And I was like, oh, it's amazing. They
That's
removed a hurdle for me. I don't have to touch the mouse to navigate through Slack, and I love it.
They anticipated your needs.
They
And
did.
that is forward resolution right there. Right?
It was amazing.
It's delivering content to you to solve a problem that really can't be solved in any other way, right at the point where you might need it.
Yep.
And I think that like when people start getting creative, like that's such a good creative example.
It was fantastic.
Well done, Slack.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities for this. And there's two more things out of this article that I really want to grab because I think they're super inspiring. So I'll do them really quickly. So the first one goes all the way back to the beginning of our conversation where we were talking about, just not even really wanting to try. And I think that part of the reason that a lot of organizations don't really go and invest in this is because they just assume that their problems are too complicated and there's no reason to even try, and they should just keep hiring more and more support people. And so the example in this article is that Cisco consumer products went from 30% to 84% when they improved their channel strategy and they unified it in a proper way and then had better, more intelligent routing for the different people who are in different parts of the customer journey. And like, those are pretty complex products. They're coming from Cisco. So going that type of a change is possible. And I think that when customer experience, when executives, when people across the organization that touch the customer, like start to change their mindset about what's possible in this space, that's when we're going to get better customer experiences. And so I'll do one more, and then I'll let you guys say whatever you want to say. Last word before we get off. The last one is Travelocity reducing calls by 5%, just by improving basic things on their help site. And like they're talking about like just fixing language, just improving navigation, like just the really basics of this stuff. And so you think about how often do we run into organizations that are like, well, the web help output is good enough. Or like, whatever we've got published through Confluence is good enough. No need to pick on Confluence. AnyWiki is good enough, right? And the reality is that if you're a large enough organization, 5% is huge. It's a ton of money. And if you're not doing this in like a really structured, scalable, and like well thought through way, you're probably leaving at least 5% on the table, if not a bunch more. So there's so much money to save here. There's so much customer experience to improve. So again, I love this article. I think it's every bit as relevant today as it was 14 years ago. And now I'm done.
We will definitely post this in the comments. I think one of the like simplest things that Travelocity did was just putting up some like trending topics, and that helped significantly. Like those aren't hard things to do, but they do make a really big difference. So.
Yeah, and measure this stuff. You got to correlate traffic increases to call center usage. It's something that a lot of our customers do, and every single one of them that tracks it always sees positive metrics in it, especially as they go and they make these incremental changes the way that Travelocity did. So it's not directly causal because you can't get to that stuff, but you can get really strong correlation. So anyways,
yeah.
Love this article. Hope everyone goes and reads it.
We'll post it. Would love to hear your thoughts. This will also be on our podcast as soon as this is done, so you can listen to it anytime. And we have, again, the Content Operations series, new episodes every Tuesday, and that'll be going on through all of summer. So hope you check it out.
Sweet.
Bye,
Thanks
y'all.
for dressing up, Casey.